We'll do it. Yay! We're waiting.
And Sherry, you're on the channel on your phone, right? You can share this over to you guys' channel, yeah? We are live. Awesome. Okay. Let me turn the sound down there. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So we'll just give people the chance to join. Sherry, are you able to see it and share it on you guys' channel?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Into the room, but not with, no, I got this.
Okay, cool.
Got this.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, awesome. Looks like 13 people joined right away. I love it. I'll just say hello to a few folks. Wanda, Claudia, welcome and hello. Stacy, thank you. Welcome and hello. Saturn Rising. Oh, thank you, Saturn. Look out for the full moon videos today or tomorrow. I'm super pumped to share those with you guys. Mel C, welcome. Debbie, welcome. So great to have you guys here. Awesome. Really pumped to be able to share and do this. Well, you're driving, so you're just going to listen. That's fine, Debbie. That's a great way to participate. We want all drivers to stay safe. So, very cool. All right. Well, I will go ahead and create an introduction. Priscilla, welcome. We've got here a really special room with some special guests and some amazing hosts. I've invited Lee and Sherry from Relationship Reinvented to join us for live laser connection coaching today. Live laser connection coaching is a 10-minute hot seat for those who are familiar with the hot seat concept or love seat concept, we should say today. And it's the opportunity for the three twins that we have with us to take a deep dive on the blocks in their connection. Each of them shared a little bit about their connection. So I'm going to share, and they were willing and big-hearted enough to share what's going on in their connection with all of us who are viewing today. And they're going to allow themselves to be vulnerable with Lee and Sherry to get the help they need to have a total breakthrough at the start of 2020. So I'm very excited about that because, as you know, we can loop in our twin flame connections for months, sometimes years. I've even met people who've looped for decades with a singular thought that was keeping us from dropping into full connection with our twin. And by unraveling or identifying that thought, Lee and Sherry have the capacity to really help people get into the heart space that opens up connection. So I'm really excited that Marinike, Song, and Toral have all agreed to be our way showers today. Thank you, Lee and Sherry, for being here as well.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Love it.
Thank
Thanks
you so
for doing
much. Yeah.
Man, thank you for being here. This is awesome.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fabulous.
We're really
Cool.
excited.
So real quick, I'm going to say, for those of you who wanted to do this and you sent your information in, there were more than 24 of you. So I'm super pumped that I'm going to be emailing you after the session with some very specific follow-up support for you. You will not be left behind or left without anything. I read each one of your stories. Thank you for being so brave. And tonight we're going to work first with Song, and I'm going to go ahead and pull Song's information, and then we'll dive right in. I'm going to set a timer and we'll dive right in. Thank you, Gemini Princess. If you guys could all like the video, I would super appreciate it. It definitely gets the video circulating and in the hands of those who really need it. All right. Song, thank you so much. You're first up. If you're Toral and Marinike, if you could go ahead and mute yourselves, that would be fantastic. Song shares that she has been 1 year in separation. Her DM is married with an adult child, and she's still financially dependent on her young daughter's father, who she sees on the weekends. And the help Song said she's looking for is this. She said, I would like to clarify what is blocking this union and what I need to do to be in union with myself first. I would like to know how to deal with separation. I want to understand the both of us. And with that, 10 minutes begins. I'll give you a 2-minute warning
Yes.
before we close.
Okay, let me just clear up and say hi to everyone first. Thank you. But I met my DM a year ago, and we've been in separation for a couple of weeks, but it's been on and off for months. That's it.
Okay. So when have you ever felt a man you're connected to choose only you?
With my daughter's father, all of my boyfriends, apart from this one.
How about your father?
My father, well, yeah, they divorced when I was young,
I'm sorry, it broke up.
and then he moved to. My father, yes, he divorced when I was young, and he moved to California when I was about 12, I think.
And did he remarry somebody?
He's been married, yes, a few times.
So your father always chose someone else instead of choosing you?
Yes, I would say so.
And how did he respond to your emotions about that?
I don't know. I never really talked about it with him when I was younger because I'm more of like a philosophical kind of person. So I'm like, well, if you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, kind of thing.
And that's
I miss them because sometimes I felt like I wanted to relate to him more than I could my mom because she's Korean, my dad's American. So that's my block. Abandonment issues from daddy.
when did your father sit with you and you were allowed to share with him how it felt?
Probably about 3 years ago, I basically just shared with him like you've been a shit father. He's like, no, I was there financially. I was like, well, that's not being a dad. Like a daughter needs her father to be there, to protect her, to love her, to cherish her, yeah. And he was mad and he apologized.
Right. Would you say that during that conversation with him, you were able to establish an emotional connection to him where you could see how broken your heart was?
Yeah, I think so because I was crying, trying to get it out. So yes, I did. Yes, and we made amends, and we overcame that, and he admitted it, and we've moved on, and I'm quite happy with where we are. I'm very happy with where we are. I forgave him.
So he shows up for you now, emotionally.
Yes. Yes, he does, but not how I want him to be.
Okay. What word?
Because he's, always trying to fix it or give me advice.
Interesting. What word do you think we heard you say after you said, yes, he shows up for me?
Well, not the way that I would want him to.
We heard you say, but. You abandoned your first statement and pointed at the abandonment that was occurring already as though he could actually show up for you the way you need him to. So when did you let him know how you needed him to show up for you after all of those wounds you had incurred as a child? And how much love would you receive if that's what he could give you now? I mean, wouldn't this help you see your connection to yourself as well as your father, and even this connection you have with your DM? Have you created space for a man you're connected to choose you the way that he can choose you instead of the way you want him to choose you. Does that make sense? Is she frozen? I think she froze.
She may have froze.
May froze. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
We
give her a
freeze
second to come
sometimes.
back.
We don't mean to freeze people. We just do sometimes.
Well, sometimes it freezes because they're reconnected. But
Because their connection is unstable.
oh, happens to us.
But for those of you who are watching, while we give Song a second to come back in terms of her Wi-Fi connection, how many of you guys can kind of see some of this playing out in your own lives? Can you tell us in the chat? Are you making some connections for yourself already?
It's deep when you go into the space. Sometimes the wounds that you didn't realize you have come out in this connection, and we think it's the person we're connected to that's bringing it out. But these were wounds that were left and where you're connected from. Of course, they're going to show up in who you're connected to. It's deep because you don't realize that you can create the space. You don't create the space to make sense of the hurt. How do you put love inside of your hurt is probably a deeper question in connection to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got some words of recognition here in the chat. Wanda Claudia says, yes. Oh my God. Saturn Rising says, yes, ma'am. I think Song just joined us from her iPhone. Perfect.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Hi, Song.
Yay.
Welcome back, Song.
Welcome
There
back.
she is.
I don't know what happened. My desktop stopped working, so I had to call you on my mobile phone.
Okay. Did you hear everything I was saying, Song?
No, I left the bit where you said, well, you said that your dad didn't turn up for you the way that you wanted to, that you needed.
And how did you communicate that the way you needed him to?
I basically told him, Dad, listen, stop. I need you to listen to what I'm saying. So he listens to me now. I said, I don't need your advice. I'm just telling you about my situation. So just please accept it, and you don't need to fix it. Don't worry about me. My situation is not the same as yours. And we're fine. We honestly are.
Yeah. Sometimes, though, some of the wounds that we don't want to share with those that helped create them usually causes a stuck pattern in connection.
Oh, no, I'm very open and honest. I'm Scorpio. I just tell him exactly what's on my mind.
Awesome. So he knows how broken your heart was.
Yes, he
And
does. And he even regrets it a lot.
When he regrets it, how's that the same as helping you heal it?
He just, by him telling me that he acknowledges it, I feel already better.
Okay.
You know, he's not in denial. He's not saying, at first for a long time, he was like, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I was there. I was like, look, Dad, yes, you did. Then he went away and thought about it and came back. He said, yes, you're right. And I'm deeply, deeply, gratefully sorry. And we're living now. Let's do it. Let's do it properly now.
Mom, what are you doing?
Who's that in the background? So did he ever ask you what he could do to help open up better communication and help you go through those emotions? Did he ever give you that kind of space? Did he ever communicate that with you?
No, I basically just told him what I needed, and he's complied with that.
So did he ever tell you what he needed?
No, never.
So how can a man you're connected to tell you what he needs?
I mean, he can tell me. If I ask him, he'll tell me.
But the space to be open in that space, your father doesn't feel open. He feels like he has to make up for how he hurt you, doesn't he?
Oh, no, I think we're beyond that. That's
Okay.
the way I feel in my mind. And I will clarify that with him.
Yeah, I would let him know that you're open to the space of where he thinks and how he feels, and you want him to be able to share that with you because that's something you want to heal in a connection you're experiencing.
Mhm.
But I think sometimes we don't see that in the background there's this hidden belief system that may be disconnecting us from the one we're connected to. And in this space, you've lived a long time without a man you're connected from. Is that showing up in the years spent in the man you're connected to? You're used to being without a man you're connected to. Is that what this man is trying to show you?
1 minute warning. 1 minute
Right.
warning.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So getting your father to open up in that space will help that.
Okay, I think you made a point because I feel like my DM is not emotionally available. He doesn't want to face his emotions, but my dad faces his emotions. But I will definitely look at that and explore that more.
This doesn't mean in every situation you actually have to talk to the parent or work
Right,
things out.
right.
Some situations are too toxic, and but in this case, it sounds like he's willing and able to.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest thing for her is being able to open up that side of her heart that might have got hurt by a man she's connected from. Meanwhile, the man she's connected to feels that and feels responsible for it, may not choose her until that's in healing. Because we often see that the masculine and feminine disconnect from what happened up here. And that's what breaks it all down. That's where the belief systems come into play.
That's right.
Sometimes, there's a little girl in there who's carrying your heart. Will you trust her with the man you're connected to based on what the man you're connected from did to her?
Yes.
Follow up with you too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Song, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this with us today. It was a pleasure. I don't know if you saw the YouTube comments, but there was lots of people recognizing themselves in your experience. So I appreciate your vulnerability today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Amazing. Beautiful heart.
Yes.
Look for the follow-up email, okay, Song?
Okay,
Bye for now. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, sweetheart. Next up, we have, if you could go ahead and mute yourself, Song. Next up, we have Toral joining us from, are you in London, Toral?
I am, yeah, in the UK.
Awesome.
All right.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Well, try not to knock your internet out.
So Toral shares with us that her and her twin met 5 years ago. This is the second time that he's come in now. There are major religious differences and a massive age gap and huge upbringing differences. But they can't stay away from each other, but they also can't have each other fully. She says that I'm the awakened twin, but I'm sure he's not telling me things. He's in an extremely toxic place at the moment. There are addictions involved, a baby's mom, etc. It's the most beautiful but painful journey that I have known to date. When I asked what would she like help with during laser coaching, she said surrendering and letting go.
Okay. What do you want to let go of?
Oh. It would be wrong to say the connection because I don't. But I think it's how to deal with it better. I think the letting go of expectations probably is the best thing to say here. That's probably my main, like learning to surrender, I guess, and letting go.
When you have expectations and they're not met, how do you stay connected to you?
So how do I stay connected to the connection?
How do you stay connected to you when you don't have your expectations met?
Oh, oh dear.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not. It's probably the answer there.
Okay. So you want him to connect to you when you're not connected to yourself because your expectations aren't being met? Maybe letting go of the expectations.
Yes.
Instead of
yes.
letting go of the connection makes more sense.
Yes, that's it.
if you're not connected to you, who's he connecting to?
Yeah.
How often are you focused?
It makes,
How often are you focused on your connection to him versus the connection you have to yourself?
oh God, I think about that way more, but about my connection to him than my connection to myself. Yeah, absolutely. I think I tend to abandon that, which is, you know, is
So
wrong.
you actually bring up a very, very powerful place that I have a question to ask you. Which parent,
Okay.
mom or dad, makes you focus on your connection to them before you focus on the connection to yourself?
Oh, now which one?
Mhm.
I would. That's tough. Which one is it going to be now? Is it mum or dad?
Which one?
Do you know what I? I'll probably say mum then.
Jump right in, buddy.
It's interesting because the way that it's happening this way, but it doesn't always happen this way. And we also there's lots of resistance when it comes to parents and upbringing, and I've cleared all that, I've cleaned all that, and I shouldn't have to go back. But this is all about connection, right? How are we going to really fix the the connection to the person we're connected to if we don't realize that what's happened to us from the people we're connected from has affected our connection, not only to ourselves, but to the one we're connected to?
Yeah.
It really does come back around. It
That
really
makes
does.
perfect sense. Yeah.
And here's another place to look on deep within that. Which parent accepts you for you and your choices?
Oh, okay. That is a really tough one because they've both kind of done that at different times, though, about different things.
Yeah.
There's not just one that's like, you can't do this or you can't. They both have their views on certain things. That's the same. You know, like the description that Kay said earlier, they would probably both agree. They'd be horrified at that. Both of them would have the same, what the hell are you doing? You know, kind of thing. But with like work that I do and stuff like that, they've both kind of stepped into, do you know what? She's got these gifts or whatever, and they've accepted it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So with this whole conversation and the topic, they would be like that. You are not mine, so to speak. I think they'd react like that, like the disowning aspect of things. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, we do.
So
okay, good.
I need to slow you down though and point out something you just did just now in their absence, not presence. You pointed out how they would disconnect from you in a future time. So you're expecting that to be connected to you now? And I guess when you two try to come together, that's what's in the way. You need not to choose to make sense of their behavior, not his.
Yeah.
The interesting part
yeah,
of that,
it's their behavior.
Yeah, but the interesting part of that is he may find a way to do exactly like you're doing to your parents. In other words, he will probably do something and make you question whether or not you accept him or not. And when you do that, he has to treat you the way you treat your parents to make sense of the way you treat your parents to make sense of connection. This connection shows this under a huge light and says, are you going to change this or keep this cycle going for generations to come? A lot of responsibility, but it is very deep and you can go into it and change it, and it changes everything you're connected to, starting with the connection to yourself.
Yeah.
Because everybody watching this right now watched you talk about how you were going to be rejected from your parents and they're not here. And those are people you're directly connected to. So you expect to be rejected in connection. What if you're wrong?
Yeah.
What if all of that love, all of that love you've been running from, telling yourself you're going to be rejected, was actually knocking at the door saying, let me in, and you're saying no, because my parents won't accept me. Not
Yeah.
accepting doesn't mean you won't be loved. It just means maybe they don't agree with what you're choosing.
Yes. Yeah,
But maybe their parents,
definitely.
but maybe their parents or those they're connected to didn't allow them to make choices in connection either. So are you here to change it or keep it going?
Oh, absolutely change it.
Then you'll have to.
Two people are being divinely brought together somehow, but we need help.
Yes. So
Somehow.
here's the beautiful thing, right? Your twin is not the awakened twin, according to you, but
According to me.
right. But at the same time, you're pointing and saying your parents aren't awakened, they're going to reject you too. It seems to be you might want to change telling yourself that those you're connected to aren't awakened, because you might be looking through the dark to see the dark instead of the light. It's very powerful.
Okay.
Look through the eyes of love instead of the eyes of dark. Does that make sense? Both exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Both can coexist in love at the same time. The divine intelligence in you will tell you this.
Okay.
1 minute warning.
Yeah.
We need her all day, every day.
What are you trying to say? I'm not attached to time because it messes with our connection.
Yeah.
Remember the whole waiting period. I was a slow learner. So
Oh God, divine patience.
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it.
Oh, I think it's always a work in progress, though, isn't it? Healing's never over and this and that, but I suppose
we're going to be following up with you too, so don't forget.
Absolutely.
forget.
We're going to help you put a whole bunch of love, not just there, but just inside that little girl who tells you that you'll be rejected. She needs your acceptance.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're not connected to her. What happened to her? You're looking for disconnect in your connection more than you're looking for connection. How's that for awakening?
Wow. That is very powerful. You don't even realize you're doing it half the time.
No.
Oh, I thought somebody was raising.
I did too. She got
Well,
it fixed.
It did look like Song was raising her hand. That's funny. Thank you so much, Toral. Thank you. I really appreciate you doing that.
No, thank you guys. It's just wonderful. I feel like crying right now, but I won't, Thank you.
Vulnerability is how you get love.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is how you get love.
Once again,
yeah,
lots of resonance in the comments.
Oh yeah, the comments are cracking.
Don't abandon your emotions.
Benita
by
said,
hiding.
"Oh Lord," she couldn't take it. She said, "Oh."
I seem to have an MBA in hiding them, so.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
Practice the other way, Dad.
Yep.
Practice the other way. You deserve it.
I will do. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Toral. It was a pleasure to be able to witness for you today. For those of you who are listening, we've got one more mini laser coaching session on connection. We'll have Marinike next. Thank you for being here, Marinike. But then we're going to do something special. We're going to open the floor to those of you in the comments to ask your questions about connection, the connection you have with your twin, or the connection you have with the people that you are, as Lee and Sherry say, connected from the generation before you, who gave us the template for connection. If you've got questions about that, you'll be able to ask those as well. Marinike, thank you for unmuting yourself. I'm going to go ahead and read what you shared, and then we'll dive into your session, okay? I have here, Marinike shares that we are currently in separation for the past 2 years. I'm single, located in America. He is with a woman in relationship and located in Sweden. We communicate only telepathically. We met in Bangkok and then Cambodia and Vietnam. I held on to the connection after talk of relationship, and he enjoyed himself. I published my first book after homelessness, dropping out of law school, and dedicated it to many, including my twin. A day later, after showing it to him, he felt it exciting to spend the evening with someone else as my flight arrived. I started self mutilating and it ended us. When I asked what Marina Kay would like help with during laser coaching, she shared acceptance that things have changed, allowing myself and my connection to release connection with time and embrace a new change and chapter, also help with self mutilating. I'll go ahead and start the clock now.
So tell us, in your home growing up, tell us about how mom and dad treated each other.
You know, now at this point, it just feels like I'm only seeing negative things. To the outside world, they would present a very united front. And I'm from Nigeria. I'm first generation born. So my father is Nigerian and my mother's from the US. And so there was a lot of power dynamic because my father is an educational elitist and they both work as professors. And so my mom was a lagging professor, always doing her best to like prove herself. And so I would see my mom kind of crying a lot, puffy eyes, and like the relationship not working. And I noticed that was when like the harming happened. It wasn't really so much my own personal abuse of things that they had in that side of the house. But to us, they would say, you know, my mom would be like, I hope you marry a guy as great as your dad. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, child, but I hope not. Like, you know, and so it would just kind of be like that. They would like kiss each other every morning. Hey, nice to see you, and say, okay, goodbye. And like in front of us. But there was this energy at the time at 14, 13. You can't understand, oh, it's an energy. You just feel not good. So I would listen on some of their conversations, and I thought we were doing well. And my mom taking us to school and her eyes just like puffy, like a whole nother eye. And we wouldn't say anything. We were just kind of scared. And seeing my dad cheat on my mom a lot, even in videos, he would, I borrowed a camera and he like had women and just pornography and just sad, just sad. This is what I remember at this point at 32 years of life.
So just to make sure we heard you correctly, you grew up watching a man you're connected to not choose the woman you're connected to, and then you took on the wound? When did
Yeah.
you? So you're repeating this in your connection for what reason? To make sense of what mom went through, or to make sense of what dad went through?
You know, when it happened and I arrived to Hanoi to go and see him, he called me earlier that day like 7, 8 times. And I was like, oh, he misses me. And hey, I just want to see what time you're coming in, only so he could go and enjoy himself with somebody else that night and tell me where I was going to be. So when I got there, it was like something I could not explain. It was like ancestral spirit or something like that, or he and I had something, and I was like, not again. And I was so angry, like I couldn't cry, I couldn't choke him, he was just gone, his stuff was there. And then like the only thing I could do, because mind you, I haven't mutilated since like then, but it was just like my blood was boiling so much, I just had to like let it out in my skin. Like I had to let the blood out, like get oxygen. It was just like something that was not me, that was something else from behind me. So was I recreating this? Sorry, what was your question?
Well,
or was I living it out?
I could actually ask a different question. When did your father acknowledge how he hurt you?
Well, I'm not really sure. After I was sexually abused when I was working on a master's in Ghana, I was sexually abused. My parents adopted someone they didn't tell me, who was not my sibling. And as a child, she was like abusing me. And then as an adult, I went to Ghana to work on my master's and to teach, and it was my boyfriend's friend who raped me. And so when I told my dad, I just kind of kept it quiet because he shared that he cares more about his career than us. So I had to keep quiet because he was a faculty liaison. So I dodged a bullet for his career. And then only after I said, look, you didn't protect me, I was so mad. He just hugged me and said, I'm sorry. And then after that is, or whatever you said happened, or whatever you said happened. So in that moment, when I shared that with him, then he just gave me a hug and said, okay, I'm so sorry, but let me ask, who was it? And then never again. That was probably maybe the only time he's ever.
Maureen, I have a question about all of that.
Yeah.
When your father sat down with you and told you his career was more important than you, what did you say to him?
It was actually my grandmother who told me this, and it was a feeling I've always gotten from them. Like, I can't really get in the way of his career. He won't pick us up because he needs to work on his career. He's working on his promotion. Oh, yeah, I have to do work. I mean, through indirect ways, through his actions, then he's shown that to me. And when my grandmother confirmed this to me, I was like, yeah, I know that about him.
So your twin isn't allowed to be direct with you?
Oh, he is.
Did you hear how your father isn't?
Yes.
And did you hear that you actually allowed an insert coming from a woman you're connected from twice over, telling you what your father meant to help you in a space where you either felt loved or felt abandoned? Did she reinforce or validate the abandonment?
Absolutely.
And did this keep you connected to yourself?
I don't know, probably yes and no.
Do you feel your head? Did you feel
No, yeah, it didn't keep me connected. I felt more disconnected.
My beautiful twin here says, the mind will be the lie and the body will be the truth. And your head just went like this.
Yeah.
How are you connecting to her?
Now
that we just pointed her out that she's in there going like this.
I listen, yeah, as much as I can. I pray as much as I can. I am certified in Theta and I specialize in DNA. So as I'm healing all of these ancestral situations, this is how I can pay attention to her, just because it's just emotion. It's just feeling. It's just like that, right?
How
Nothing logical.
How old were you when your grandma told you this?
It was after I was abused. So like 21 or 23. Yeah.
21-year-old girl walks in, sits next to you, looks up at you and says, my daddy chooses a career over me. What do you say to her?
How do you choose yourself?
Did you notice you didn't acknowledge what she said?
Yes.
How is that connecting to yourself?
It's so difficult. I really don't know the answer, Lee. Like, I'm like coming up with them because I'm like, is that what you mean?
What I'm saying is you've got an expectation he's got to choose somebody else all the time and not choose you. And you're even telling you that's okay. How's that connecting to you? It's not okay. You had hurt in there among the abuse, among all the other times in your life when you needed your daddy. And you watched your mom struggle to get his attention. So what did that do with your emotions? Who acknowledged how you felt directly? Mom or dad?
No one.
So no one can be in a space and connection. How are
2-minute warning.
Yeah. How are you creating that space now?
By talking to Sherry and Lee.
Connecting with 21-year-old you and saying, listen, come on, I don't believe that your father is choosing a career over you. Does he know you feel that way? Come with me, I'm gonna help you. I mean, that would be connecting, wouldn't it? That would be you allowing your vulnerability to actually feel being loved by a man you're connected from. Do you see how that might open a door to a man you're connected to choose you? That would be how you choose yourself in connection, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very deep wound that you point out and point at the person you're connected to and blame him for. Meanwhile, you just real time with 21-year-old you ignored how she felt. which meant you learned how to ignore how you feel. You focused on mom. How did mom focus on you? You see what I'm saying? It's almost,
Yeah.
so what did you learn in your connection path that this connection is here to help you heal? And it's not going to heal from the other person. It's got to be something you give yourself.
Okay. And before we run out of time, like the seconds that we have left, because I noticed that like, you know, maybe I was holding my twin hostage for the emotions. I've just worked on just releasing him and letting him be free. Like he keeps asking, did this happen because of me? Did I do that? And I said, no, it's just an issue that's never happened. It just kind of came up, but it wasn't you. Like, you're free. But it wasn't a tight, like, kind of, holding him hostage, and I just want to let him go from that. He can do what he wants and I can do what I want. And yeah.
We're going to tell you this. You, all three of you, are good enough. You all three deserve true love. But you got to connect to it inside of you first. We can see it. We can feel it. Everybody watching can feel that. So what's stopping you is your connection to you. Is your heart open or closed when you think about your twin? Connect there first. Even though there may be wounds, those wounds need your love before you'll let anybody else love you. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys are amazing. I love this.
Thank you.
Very open. There's usually resistance. We've seen resistance because you've been so, you kept everyone out for so long. You keep it going to make sense of the disconnect, and you connect to that disconnect in that way. Meanwhile, you want true connection.
Yeah. Kay says she's opening Q&A now.
Oh, awesome.
I like this. I got this little chat right in front of me down here.
Well, then, Sherry, I will let you run your Q&A because you guys are a pro at Q&A and you just go for as long as you have room and time. Let me pause here and say a wonderfully huge thank you, Marina Kay. Thank you for your vulnerability. Self-harm is something that I know a lot of twins struggle with. It's one of those things that's very quietly happening behind closed doors when people feel the emotions of abandonment or rejection in the connection. So I really appreciate each of you coming together, sharing your story, being real and open and honest about your perceptions of your experiences growing up and your experiences right now, because it helps all of us to see what we are doing when we have the opportunity to look at it objectively. So thank you. You guys have done an amazing service today with your vulnerability. I know that some of you are across the Atlantic, so if you need to go, please feel free to. Marina Kay, I know you may have other things to do with your day, so if you have to go, please feel free to. We're going to open the floor to Q&A. What questions do those of us in the chat have? Let's go ahead and fire them up. I know Lee and Sherry have limited time. They've got another commitment right on the heels of this, but they're going to go ahead and answer as many questions as they can.
Yeah. Let's take them. There was a couple comments I kind of wanted, so I want to sort of comment on before we get a couple questions. TF Girl says my parents have passed away, and that's okay too. If there's patterns that you recognize and that you notice, that's a big step. Just noticing and then recognizing, hey, I learned that from, right? And I want to switch that. It's interesting that I watch my children create the same patterns in their children that I created in them, the not so great ones. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm going, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. Don't do what I did. Don't. Right? Because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know what I mean? But it's what we learn is what we teach. And it's interesting to me just watching and listening. Sometimes it's just a word that I used to use when I was raising them. and they've picked up on it, right? And I'm like, oh man, oh, but you know, you don't want to say anything because then that starts World War III. But I watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want my connection to my children to be, well, as healthy as possible. I mean, it's, you know, come on, they're girls. It's fun. But I want to teach them from what I am now, not from what I was, right? Before I woke up and realized that I was a hot mess and I needed to do some inner work and fix it. Still always doing inner work and always fixing it. But that doesn't mean that you can't still go to your parents and work things out, even
Absolutely.
though that they're gone.
Yeah, we actually kind of came together after a loss. And she lost her father, I lost my mother. So we kind of were connected to the loss of each other before we were connected to the presence of each other. You have to kind of go through that, because things that are left unsaid and those unanswered emotions, sometimes those unanswered emotions will still continue to show up in your connection because of your belief in that space, not because they're going to continue. Even with the loss of your mother and father, your emotions need an answer, not one that you place in it, not based on the truth. So if you don't have an answer as to why this happened with your mother or father, don't insert something. Be at peace with not knowing, because you'll recreate that in this connection and keep punishing yourself and your parents, and they're not here anymore. And that's not what they would want for you. In your heart, you know that.
Self-energy work. Would meditation be the way to go? The saying keeps coming up, know thyself. I think it fits in real good with what we're talking about here, the self-work, the inner self, really going in. We like to analogize what we do. You know, it's like your body is a house and there's all these different rooms in here. And some rooms we shut and lock.
The family room.
Yeah, that's the family room. There are some closets that are locked. We haven't seen the key to those closets in years.
The basement.
The basement. Yeah. We have the kitchen where we cook up things, you know, lies and deceit, all that mess, right? We have all these rooms that we like to lock up. Some we leave wide open. The clean ones where it's all clean, there's no dust, and we keep that room vacuumed and ready for the company. Those doors are wide open. See, they get all the airflow.
Yes.
They get all the energy. They get what we don't realize that is what's behind those shut doors still is still there. Self-work isn't closing the door to the basement. Self-care is going in and opening the doors and clearing out the rooms. We don't like to do that. I don't like to do that, right? It also doesn't mean that once you clean your house, it never needs cleaned again. We all know better than that now, don't we? Right? You can sweep the floor and the next day needs swept again, right? Interesting thing is we come in like the SWAT team and we just start kicking doors down that you won't open. And we'll go in there with flashlights because their rooms are usually pretty dark. We'll go in with flashlights and see some stuff and be like, hey, what is this? Have you cleaned this? Let's fix this. Healed is not attainable. We're human beings. We just have to stay in healing, right? I come out of it yesterday. I felt myself yesterday, right? I did. You do. You're human beings. You know what I mean? You realize it. And you reel yourself back in. You don't have to stay in that now for long periods of time. You don't have to stay in that space for long periods of time. Those rooms that we've closed the doors on, we don't need to talk about that. That's the past. My past is clear. My relationship with everybody's wonderful. I've done the work. Everything's great. Let us in the rooms.
Not gonna happen.
Okay.
I like what you did. This one, are you only letting your twin into one specific room that you've set up, and you think you're telling yourself you're letting them love the real you in that room? Meanwhile, all the other rooms are closed, and you wonder why they say, well, guess I'm not allowed to venture anywhere in here, and they leave the room, and then you're wanting them to come back and spend more time in a room where they're not loving you. All rooms need to be gone into, not just by them, but by you. And you not wanting them to take them in those rooms? Does that sound very connecting to you not wanting to send them in those rooms? That's how you gotta look at it.
But yeah, meditation works too.
Yeah.
It does.
After you
It
clean
really,
the rooms and
yeah,
opened your
yeah,
rooms.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, meditation practice is never a bad thing. I, for 5 years, can verbalize my heart to my twin. I literally feel muzzled when I have a chance to speak in person. Thoughts for unblocking happened to me. Happened to me. It was incredible. But I think I figured it out. Notice I said think. Do you remember when
Yep. Yes.
there it is.
Yep.
I couldn't form a word, let alone a sentence. That was way beyond my capability, right? When I was in his presence in the very beginning. Oh, I can speak words now. I'm real good at it. But in the beginning, when we would see each other physically, there was something that blocked my communication.
Mhm.
And I'm feeling that the reason that when I saw Lee, you guys will know what I'm talking about. When you see when you see that person, it's different. It's scary. It's not like, oh, I found my person. Oh, it's great. No, it's really freaking scary because you look at them and you can see that they can see. And you don't want them to see because you got closed doors in there, see? But they've got x-ray vision. You can see inside those closed doors and you know it. You know it. So we can't speak because we don't want to say nothing. Body's just like, no, you're going to really mess this up. You're going to mess it up.
Right. But the opposite effect of that is when she was that way, was I rejected? Because sometimes what happens is since there's no communication coming out, or you feel like you're causing that person to stumble and not really say anything, you think it's something you're doing to them. And they feel like they're not good for you when they do that. So they go a different direction. Your heart intelligence is allowed to speak, but this usually tries to do the talking. So when you've got to formulate, you know you're going to see them, you start getting in your head, you've already left where you want to talk to them from. This is called abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the abandonment is doing to you before it shows up outside of you. Don't be there, be here. Get it?
Yeah.
That's kind of the best way to do
I
it.
got it. Do past life issues affect what we need to be in union with ourselves, or are present life issues enough? Let me put a disclaimer down here. This is opinion. This is only opinion. You know, I'm not an expert on the past life things. I don't know anything about them. I know that I've completed them. However they were completed, I don't know. Putting any more of that information in my head, I don't need it. My present life issues are way more, right? Look, if I owe somebody $50 from 1902, they're probably not getting it, right? Because I owe somebody $50 from 2019 still, right? So it's interesting to me. In my past life, I was this. I guess there are times that I'm curious, but I don't even know. That's the thing. I don't even know. However, you know, the question is, is it what we need to be in union with ourselves? Do we need to know? I feel like we don't. I feel like we've completed that, right? Now I want to go back to and say the same thing with like the parents. When we go back, sometimes you have to go back, right? Just like in school, sometimes you have a history book and you learn about things, right? You're sitting with a group of people and they're having a conversation about history and you can have some input in it, right? Because you've read a history book. You know what happened. Sometimes I guess it would be important. I just don't know my belief system when it comes to past lives.
And the best way to probably figure that out is to ask yourself something very, very, very deep and important about your past life.
Yeah.
When you connect to that past life and the wounds and the ego and all of the information that you can access, what happens to you in this life and your connection? How's that not abandonment? Because what you're really trying to access matters now or doesn't matter at all. So what you do is you're connecting to a timeline and time. How's that being connected to you in this moment for them to connect to you? How is your heart open to your past life and your heart open to your present moment at the same time? So it's almost like you already know your own answer when it comes to past life. Am I connecting to that to make sense of this connection as a way to abandon the connection in the present moment like I did then, I'm doing now? Why repeat that over and over? Why access thoughts, wounds, and love that aren't in this moment? Who's that going to allow to connect to you? And how are you staying connected to yourself when you do that? How do you show yourself you love yourself enough to be chosen first and for that to show in your connection? If you were standing in front of a mirror, do you put your twin in front of it and take them apart instead of you?
That's big.
That would be the way that it would come across, right? I know that I wanted to, I would tell myself, once I connect to her, I'll be great. I'll be fantastic. I'm going to be love. I'm going to be this. And every time I tried to do it that way, man, she let me know about it. She felt all kinds of pressure to make me happy. She tried to pretend to be who I wanted her to be. And we were in separation that entire time I was doing that until I realized, wait, am I putting my connection with myself before my connection to her? And how should that feel to her if I'm choosing her before me? Feels like she doesn't have any room to choose me when I'm doing that. How am I going to get this to work is where everybody gets stuck instead of going, wait, maybe I should try that differently. Because will you let somebody connect to you if you're not connected to yourself first? If you ask yourself on the inside that question, kind of like we saw earlier, hey, your 21-year-old you sitting there, what do you say to her? Oh, I'm not acknowledging what she feels. Right. So when your twin does the same to you, why are you yelling at them? Why are you upset with them? You do it to you. You showed them how. So your connection to you should always be your primary in this connection. That's why the connection found you. It wanted you to see your connection to yourself. Name one connection on this planet that makes you that conscious of the way you choose yourself, connection to yourself. Haven't seen one yet. We have relationships, though, that will mask that you're not connected to yourself. But what about this connection? How do you have this connection if you're not choosing your connection to you first? How do you expect them to choose you if there's no path created for that? Guess we've all been stuck in that space. But it seems like more of the collective, so we just join the collective instead of joining ourselves to be connected to ourselves to show the world something different. That's why you're here.
Is it possible to heal the wounds without confronting a toxic parent? Yes, of course. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's worked out within yourself. We certainly don't want anybody going into a toxic situation, right? Even with a parent or a child. So yeah, no, it doesn't have to, you don't have to confront your parents. You do not have to go to them. You do not have to have these talks. You can work that out within yourself. You can work that out by speaking things. There are tools that can help you get that out for sure.
But also look deep and realize that the toxic parent was taught to be a toxic parent and was taught to be a toxic grandparent, so on and so forth. You're seeing that toxicity and choosing to have those toxicity belief systems within you. Remove those first. Let go of what was done. Let go of what that parent did, and realize that that parent was taught to do that. And whoever was absent has been now passed down to you to be absent again. Be present with what you're telling yourself they did to you in that toxicity, because it was done to them. They have an inner child just like you. And that inner child picked up everything their parents did and became parents themselves. It's all connected. Do not disconnect from that connection. Just change how you're seeing it.
We got time for one or two more.
Okay.
It's a couple here. My twin is in Honduras. Says when he comes back, he's coming with me. We talked about feelings. He said he's had trouble expressing them because his father never expressed them. Is it okay to tell him mine, or should I wait until he's comfortable enough to express his? I would not hold back telling him anything. I feel the more open and honest you are, right, the more open and honest he'll be. If you create a safe space by communicating safe things, right, or the uncomfortable things in a safe space, then it feels comfortable communicating those things in a safe space, right? To the one you're connected to, it doesn't matter where they are. Understand that in connection, the safe space between you, right, doesn't have to be physical, right? That twin can be across the world, right? And the communication should be as strong as ever. He doesn't communicate well because he wasn't taught to communicate well, right? Believe me, it gets frustrating when there's not that equal amount of communication that you need, right? Always feel comfortable. By you saying, should I wait until he's comfortable, is being what you think he wants you to be. You're assuming he wants you to not communicate. You're assuming that you are uncomfortable communicating with him and opening up with him. So why should he feel comfortable opening up communication with you? Anything?
I would say the biggest thing about that is let him know that you understand where he's coming from, and you're going to listen to the feelings his father never expressed or he ever shared with his father, and you will not judge them. You will listen. You may not have an answer for him, but he has that space with you. If you have not said that, he expects you in connection to give him what his father gave him. So literally, you will help him see a belief system that he believes that those he's connected to never expressed emotions or feelings. He's telling you the belief system. Now you tell him how you're here to change it and help him create space for that to be something he can have. Because I would imagine he probably tells himself a story why his father never expressed his emotions. A story that points to something bad within himself. Why wasn't he enough for his father to express his feelings? he may be looking for you to validate that that's the space he needs to stay in connection. Change things. That's why you're here.
There are so many more questions we would love to be able to get to you. We just don't have time. But what we will do is when we get a few moments, we'll check out this video. We'll look at the comments and we'll go under and we'll answer your questions. How about that? Just give us a couple days.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. I am filled with gratitude that you would be willing to do live laser mini coaching and support people in this way. For those of you who applied for today's Love Seats but were not selected, keep your eyes on your inbox for a very special email from me later on this evening, if not tomorrow morning, to get you the support that you're looking for as well. So thank you to Marinike, Song, and Toral. Your vulnerability was totally provided breakthroughs for all of us who watched.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was our honor.
It is.
Healing within our connection has been a priority for us. And, you know, when we knew that the world needed this, but sometimes you just want to look for all the mystical, magical stuff to put this into healing. But this came from mind noise. And it also came from a story you have to tell yourself. That story doesn't belong in connection to yourself. You are not your story. And that's not how you connect to you. You have to go through the story to find you first.
It's really very simple.
Mm.
It's this thing here that makes it complicated. This
Yeah.
thing right here, right? Not this goofy looking hair color, but this thing in the here. Yes.
That's funny because we asked somebody earlier, we said, hey, if you spent 20 years studying insanity, would it make you sane? And he's like, well, no. And he said, okay. Right. That's pretty much the purpose of connection. It's the cure. But you got to connect outside of your mind, not in it.
Yeah.
So if you're ready to get a similar breakthrough for yourself, please email Lee and Sherry at info@relationshipreinvented.com. You will be able to get information from them about how to get the kind of support that you witnessed them share today with others. I know they do have some opportunities for introductory specials, but I also know that they're going on tour soon. There will be a live tour across the United States. And so if you know that you want this kind of support because you're done living the story of the last decade with your twin, you're done living a 2019, a 2018 story, a 4-year-old you story, then this is your year and this is your moment to have the breakthrough, have the conversation that's going to open you to a different approach to your connection, and set you up for a very different 2020 and decade ahead. So I highly recommend it. I personally have worked with them, and I can vouch for the difference that it has made in my connection, not only with my twin, but also with my own family. Being in a very different place, listening and hearing from a different place. They are actively working on it, making sure that it is a very different relationship that I have with myself. And so it's the work that they do is stellar, extraordinary, and quite breakthrough. I cannot recommend it enough. Please like the video. And if you have a platform of your own where you share twin flame information, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, if you would be so kind as to share this video, it would go a long way in making sure that people have the opportunity to find the support that they are so desperately needing, but it's so difficult to find. Thank you everyone for being here once again. Please email info@relationshipreinvented if this is what you need. And if you're just curious about more from Lee and Sherry, subscribe to their channel. I'll paste it below in the comments. They go live often, at least once a week, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, depending upon what's going on. But they do these live Q&As on a regular basis. So there is support out here for you. You do not have to figure this out on your own. Thanks everyone. And thank you, Lee and Sherry.
Oh,
Thank
pleasure
you.
is ours.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much for
us.
having us, Caitlin.
We were honored.
really, really love you.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Take great care, everyone.
Yes.
Bye for now.